want a guy they can hand the ball off to 300 times a year. And look, I haven't had that capacity to do that. That's not my game. That's not how Austin Ekeler is going to be the best on the field. So there was the misalignment there, which no harm, no foul. I'll go find somewhere else where I can, add value, where Austin can be the best version of myself out there.
Austin Ekeler is still not finished talking about the Chargers. As you can obviously see, that clip was taken from the Kay Adams show just this week. And a lot of Chargers fans, they already did not like him because of his whole history that he has with the team. But I genuinely think that what he is saying that the Chargers told him they want at running back, it's just, I don't know, not true. I'm not calling him a liar or anything, but like maybe he just misinterpreted what they told him. I'm going to hit you guys with some facts real quick and get to the real reason that Austin Ekeler is not a Charger anymore and what this running back room is actually going to look like under Joe Hortiz and Jim Harbaugh. So first of all, the way that Austin Ekeler was used in the backfield for the Chargers, it wasn't ideal. And that's not something that I think we should skip over. Austin Ekeler, he's a change of pace running back that should be used to complement a bigger running back that can take on more of a load, specifically as a power runner between the tackles and in short yardage situations where you want to hand the ball off. But Austin Ekeler, going back to 2020, he was the lead running back for the Chargers, which, that's the year that Melvin Gordon left, and he has been far and away the Chargers' most used running back, not only in the passing game where he should be used, but also in the running game. I mean, the only year that he didn't lead the team in carries by like almost 100 carries is 2020, and that's the year that he played 10 games. But even that year, he still led the team. So the Chargers' previous regime was using him out of position, which, they were doing that to a bunch of guys on the team, a lot of guys on defense, and then even like Quentin Johnston, which that whole thing was a mess unto itself. But this one is different because it felt as though they were actually trying to put him in position to succeed because they were investing a lot of stuff into the running back room, like a lot of draft picks. They were getting guys like Joshua Kelly in there. Justin Jackson was there for a while. Isaiah Spiller they drafted. Larry Roundtree. They drafted three different running backs that just could not fit into the offense since 2020. And then Austin Ekeler was forced to take on the bulk of the load at running back because none of those guys could fit in. They even signed some free agents that I remember, like Sony Michel, but they just ended up using Austin Ekeler as the bell cow running back, and everyone knew that they shouldn't be using him that way. Even Austin Ekeler knew that.
When I went to my second contract, I got the whole Charger organization telling me, okay, like he's not going to be our workhorse because he hasn't done that before. We're going to bring in another back to complement him. And they're trying to find someone to come in and kind of be that complimentary back. But I was able to, earn myself basically all the reps. It was a situation where now I'm getting compensated as a kind of tandem back with no tandem.
So because none of those other running backs were able to work out and earn themselves carries, Austin Ekeler, taking on the bulk of the load, he inflated his value because his production got inflated, and that was one of the main reasons that he is no longer on this team. Austin Ekeler said that Jim Harbaugh called him, they talked to him about what they wanted in a running back, and they wanted a guy that could get 300 carries a year. Look at the guys that they signed in free agency, man. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, neither of those guys came close to 300 carries a year. That running back that Ravens offense was a running back by committee offense. So none of those running backs came close to 300 carries a year. Austin Ekeler is actually much closer to that kind of running back that he is claiming the Chargers wanted. This Chargers running back room is going to be a running back by committee approach. Very similar to what the Ravens were doing. That's why they got those two Ravens running backs. But ironically, it is basically exactly how Austin Ekeler should be used. So there's an argument to be made here that the Chargers were just now becoming the team that would be able to use Austin Ekeler the way that he himself said that he should be used. The closest thing that the Chargers have to what Austin Ekeler is saying that they wanted before free agency is like Kamani Vidal or Vidal. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. All those college announcers were giving me different pronunciations, but Kamani, he never even got to 300 carries in college, and that's where you take on the bulk of the load. And obviously, I don't think he's going to get anywhere close to 300 carries a year in the NFL because this is going to be a running back by committee approach. But Kamani is basically what Austin Ekeler is, but I think he could be even better. I mean, you guys know how much I love Kamani Vidal, but my point is, what Austin Ekeler is saying has been proven wrong just by the way the Chargers have gone about free agency and the draft, the way that they have constructed this roster. And it's not like the Chargers did not have their pick of the litter in free agency, because there were a lot of Bellcow type of running backs: Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones. There were a lot of Chargers fans that really wanted some of these guys, but all of those guys fit that style of running back that Austin Ekeler is claiming the Chargers really wanted, and that's why he didn't sign with the Chargers. But they didn't pull the trigger on any of those guys because it's just, that's not their philosophy at that position. They want to have a stable of backs that they can continue to rotate on low money contracts and just feed the hot hand during game days with different guys having different roles in that backfield. So then what is the real reason that Austin Ekeler did not get signed by the Chargers in free agency? I think obviously this is a new regime, so that had something to do with it, but I don't think they wanted to bring him back because of his price would be too high. And also, he's 29 years old and he's had a lot of injuries. His value got inflated because of how much the Chargers were forced to use him over the last few years and making him look like a 1,000-yard rusher, even though he'd never even hit that number in his career. And it made him want more money on his contract because he was such a big part of this offense and he felt like he had that negotiating power to fight for a new contract. But the previous regime, they did not buy into Austin Ekeler because, you know, they knew that the value would not be there if he was on a new contract that was giving him what that production was saying he should be earning. And then this new regime, they didn't want to re-sign him. Obviously, he's too old and they didn't want to pay him that much money. And also, they thought that they could get some other guys in free agency that can fill that role, specifically J.K. Dobbins, who is on a much cheaper deal. He's also much younger, but he himself does have those injury concerns. But the point is, he is much lower risk. Now, I'm never going to hate on a player for trying to get paid because I think that's what Austin Ekeler did, kind of to the extreme, you know, tried to get a new contract with the Chargers. At first, he held out of the practices. Then he requested a trade when it became clear that the Chargers were not going to give him what he wanted long term. And then he realized that no team in the NFL is going to pay him the kind of money that he wants on a multi-year contract because that's just the way that the running back market is. And he said, worst case scenario, I am forced to play for the Chargers for one more year. And that is ultimately what happened. But then he went on to have his worst season of his career. Like Austin Ekeler, he is a very smart person and he is a businessman. He knows that his career after football is going to bring him success. And I hope it does because honestly, I think he is a great guy. He was at the head of those running backs that were fighting for fair contracts when all of this was going down. Like, do you guys remember the Zoom call? And it may have actually worked because now some running backs are getting more money than we anticipated in free agency. I think Austin Ekeler probably just felt disrespected by the Chargers because of their unwillingness to give him a new contract, which, you know, I don't blame either side here. And he just decided to take his business elsewhere for a couple of reasons. Number one, he wanted to be where he was valued. And obviously that is not the Chargers anymore. And since he is a businessman, he admitted that going to the Commanders, where Magic Johnson is one of the top brass there, it had a role in his decision making.
Magic Johnson seems like a good contact for Austin to have.
Oh, Billy started poking around
to him yet, or like?
Look, I'm always looking to build myself and the team around me and the team's knowledge and my knowledge. So if we have any connections that can help build what we're already doing, then I'm all for that connection to be made.
Like I said, I cannot hate on this dude. He is setting himself up for success. And even though I think he may be wrong about what he's saying with the Chargers, and I don't know, maybe he's a little bit bitter about the whole situation, I really don't know. I still wish him the best because if he does well in Washington, we get a better comp pick next year in the draft. So it is literally in our best interest to continue to root for Austin Ekeler when he's a Commander. The second reason that I think he chose Washington, though, is Anthony Lynn. He is there, and the way he described Anthony Lynn was very similar to how the Chargers coaching staff is now, like wanting to put guys in position to succeed, maximizing their value. But, you know, I guess that's just kind of like coach speak. And then another thing he said actually was that last year, the Chargers, the reason that they were not successful is because they lacked leadership, even though he himself was a leader last year. He has been a leader on this team for 4 years. A lot of people kind of took that quote out of context because shortly after him saying that, in that same interview, in the same sentence really, he said that he himself needed to step up as a leader and help out the team. So he's not throwing shots at anybody like Justin Herbert. So I think we can all finally put this Austin Ekeler stuff away. He was pretty good with us for a while. He did have some game-changing fumbles, but he also had a lot of really good receiving production, and we got a lot out of him during his time here. I don't think you can really argue that. He was a pretty good fantasy running back. That's one thing. But overall, he was a good running back with us. I'm glad that we got to watch him over these last 7 seasons. Being that undrafted free agent coming in, it was a great story. I wish him all the best in Washington and in the future. And now I am on to our new number 30 at running back, Kamani Vidal. And if you did not see my video yesterday, here is everything that you need to know about our tight ends.